Let's be honest, rejection hurts. And it hurts even more when it comes from the people you never expected to walk away. Maybe it was someone you loved deeply, someone you trusted, prayed with, laughed with. One day they were there, and the next? Gone. No explanation, no closure, just silence. You gave them your heart, your time, your loyalty, and they left you. But what if I told you that their departure wasn't the end of your story? It was the beginning of God's redirection. That while they walked out, God was already walking in, closer than ever. That you're not alone in this heartbreak, and that even in the silence, God is still with you. Sounds counterintuitive, right? Because everything in you screams abandonment. But here's the divine twist. Rejection from people often signals selection by God. You see, while you're busy mourning who left, God is preparing you for what's next. This video isn't about pretending the pain doesn't exist. It's about confronting it with truth, healing from heartbreak, and realizing that God never leaves, even when everyone else does. Whether it was a friend, a partner, or even family, when they walk away, your Father in heaven leans in. So if you're struggling with betrayal, feeling unloved, or just trying to survive the loneliness, don't click away. You're about to discover how to find strength, joy, and purpose again, because God sees your pain and He's about to use it. The pain of being left by the ones you loved most. It's one thing to be rejected by strangers, but it's a whole different kind of ache when the people you thought would never leave do. That friend who knew your secrets, that partner who promised forever, that family member who turned cold. It cuts deep, doesn't it? And suddenly, you're left sitting in a silent room wondering, what did I do wrong? But hear this, feeling abandoned doesn't mean you're worthless. It means you're human. Even Jesus was rejected, and He was perfect. This kind of heartbreak can make you question everything, your value, your faith, even your sanity. It's why so many quietly suffer, smiling on the outside while breaking inside. But you're not alone in this. Rejection from loved ones isn't proof that you're unlovable. It's proof that people are broken too. You're not weak for feeling the sting of it. You're real. And the truth? God heals the brokenhearted, not the ones who fake their way through the pain. So how do you deal with it when someone walks away and leaves your heart in pieces? You don't just get over it, you grow through it. Maybe that looks like journaling your pain, or finally seeing a Christian therapist. Maybe it means you pray the kind of prayer that's just raw tears and silence. Whatever it is, take the first step. Because while people may leave you, God is still with you, quietly holding the pieces they dropped. And here's the thing. Sometimes, what feels like betrayal is actually a blessing in disguise. Understanding that rejection can be divine protection. It doesn't make sense at first, does it? How can something that hurts so badly be the very thing that saves you? But often, rejection from loved ones is God's redirection. See, He knows things you don't. He hears the conversations behind closed doors. He sees the intentions people hide. And sometimes, in His mercy, He allows the relationship to fall apart. Because if it stayed, it would have destroyed you. Painful? Yes. But protective? Absolutely. Think about it like this. You're walking through life holding hands with someone who's secretly pulling you away from your purpose. You don't see it yet because love blinds you, but God does. And so, even though it wrecks your heart, He removes them. Why? Because God's presence in hard times doesn't mean you avoid heartbreak. It means He's guarding your soul in the midst of it. What if that breakup wasn't the enemy attacking, but your Father intervening? This is where faith during trials becomes more than a phrase. It becomes your lifeline. When someone leaves and it feels like the world's caving in, you've got two choices: fall apart or fall into God's arms. He's not surprised by their departure. He factored it into your calling. And here's the truth many miss. When people walk away, it makes space for God to bring better connections, healthier community, and deeper spiritual growth. Some losses aren't losses at all, they're upgrades in disguise. Embracing God's presence in the middle of loneliness. There's a silence that hits different when you're dealing with rejection from loved ones. The texts stop coming, the calls disappear, the laughter fades, and then you're alone. with your thoughts, your tears, and the ache of being forgotten. But here's something most people miss. Loneliness doesn't mean God left you. In fact, it's often in the quiet, empty spaces where His voice becomes the clearest. God never leaves. Not when you're crying, not when you're questioning, not when you're shattered. Sometimes we expect God to shout over the noise, but He often whispers in stillness. When the room is empty and you're curled up on the floor, He's sitting right there with you. God sees your pain. He doesn't just observe it, He enters it. That ache in your chest, He feels it too. Want to invite Him into your healing process? Try this. Create a sacred space, even if it's just a corner of your room. Light a candle, put on worship music, and pray, not polished words, but honest ones. God, I feel alone. Be near. And He will be. Christian encouragement isn't about pretending to be strong. It's about learning that trusting God when you feel alone is one of the most powerful acts of faith. The world may call it weakness, but heaven calls it worship. And over time, you begin to experience a strange but beautiful thing. Even in the middle of the pain, you'll feel peace. Because while others may walk out, God always walks in. And before long, that emptiness, it starts filling up with something deeper, something stronger. Learning to heal instead of harden. When you're dealing with betrayal or broken relationships, it's tempting to build walls instead of bridges. Never again, you whisper. You start guarding your heart, not with wisdom, but with fear. And while it might feel safe, it slowly poisons you. Bitterness grows where healing should. But here's the truth. God heals the brokenhearted, not the ones who harden their hearts. Healing doesn't mean letting toxic people back in. It means refusing to let their actions define your future. Think about how many people stay stuck in a loop because they never process the pain. They shut down, stop trusting, stop loving, and call it strength. But God calls us to something higher, emotional healing that actually frees us. That might mean writing a letter to the one who hurt you, even if you never send it. Or praying for them by name, not because they deserve it, but because you do. Forgiveness isn't weakness, it's spiritual warfare. It's saying, you don't get to hold me hostage anymore. And as you lean into Christian inspiration and invite God into those raw, bruised places, something begins to shift. You start waking up lighter, you laugh again, you stop rehearsing the past and start dreaming again. That's not denial, it's divine. Because spiritual growth doesn't come by avoiding pain, it comes by walking through it with God. And once you realize that, you'll start to recognize the next phase of healing isn't about who left, it's about who's coming next. Making room for what God wants to bring next. Here's the part nobody tells you after heartbreak. Once you release what wasn't meant for you, God makes room for what is. That loneliness you've been feeling, it's not a void, it's space. Space for new relationships, new purpose, deeper joy, and real peace. But first, you have to let go. Let go of the narrative that says you're hard to love. Let go of the anger and confusion. Because God is with me, and He's with you too, even in the letting go. Letting go doesn't mean you didn't care. It means you care enough about your future to stop carrying the weight of the past. Want a practical step? Try this. Take everything that reminds you of the pain, old texts, photos, mementos, and give them to God, literally or symbolically. Write it down and burn it. Rip up that memory box. Donate the sweatshirt. Do something physical that reflects a spiritual truth. I'm done carrying what broke me. That's not dramatic. That's deliverance. This is how Christian motivation works in real life. Not just in sermons, but in the small, gritty moments when you choose faith over fear, hope over history. Because the more you trust God with your wounds, the more He uses them as windows to show others His grace and to remind you that when people walk away, it's not the end of the story. It's the start of something God ordained. And now that you've made space, He's about to fill it. So here you are, on the other side of rejection, still standing, maybe still limping, still healing, but standing. And now the question is, what will you do with the pain? Will you let it define you, or will you let it shape you? Because you've seen it, they left you, but God is still with you. Every tear you cried, He caught. Every silent scream, He heard. And he didn't just hear, he stayed. You've learned that feeling unloved doesn't make you unlovable, and being abandoned doesn't make you alone. God's been with you in the night hours, in the quiet breakdowns, and in the moments when you questioned if you'd ever feel whole again. Now it's time to choose. Will you carry this truth with you into tomorrow? Will you trust him again? Not just with your soul, but with your scars. Let me ask you this. What are you still holding on to that God is asking you to release? Who hurt you that you need to forgive so you can finally breathe again? What's one thing you can do today to move from heartbreak to healing? Drop it in the comments. Let this be a conversation, not just a video. And hey, if this message spoke to your heart, subscribe, turn on notifications, and share it with someone else who needs to hear that God never leaves, even when people do. You're not forgotten. You're not forsaken. You are loved, and your comeback is just beginning.